There's rather a lot to get through tonight, so let's get started with our first film of the evening, the Oscar winner for Best Foreign Film. Babette's Feast is based on a story by Isaac Dinesen, or Karen Blixen, the woman whose story was told in Out of Africa. It's a very slight, fragile tale which is set in a tiny village on the Chile Jutland Peninsula during the last century. Martine and Philippa are two elderly spinster sisters who carry on the traditions of their long-dead father, a pious man who had founded a small religious sect, and most of the local inhabitants are members of the sect. Flashbacks show us that when the girls were young and pretty, each was courted, Martine by a dashing Swedish cavalry officer, and Philippa, who had a lovely singing voice, by a portly French opera singer. But both girls rejected the possibilities of life outside the community and have grown old together. Their one apparent indulgence is Babette, played by Stéphane Audrin, a French maid and cook who came to them on the recommendation of the opera singer when she was forced to flee persecution in France. For years, Babette assiduously cooks the bland, boring food the sisters have always eaten, local fish and bread cooked in ale. But then, unexpectedly, she wins a large sum of money in a Paris lottery and decides to repay the kindness of her employers by cooking them and their disciples a real French feast. Everything in Babette's Feast is building up to the feast itself, and much of the pleasure of the film comes from the preparation of this delicious-looking meal. Real turtle soup, blinis, quails en croûte, pudding, fruit, cheeses, all accompanied by the most magnificent vintage wines. It's amusing because such indulgence flies in the face of these Spartan Scandinavians, but how they mellow under the influence of French cuisine and especially French wine. Veteran director Gabriel Axel has made an extremely beautiful film in which every image is like an oil painting. The film makes no real demands on its audience or its cast. Stéphane Audrin particularly is very underused, but it's a charming and visually rich experience. Did you like it, Margaret?
I liked it enormously, David. I didn't find it as slight as you found it, because I find it a tale of wonderful generosity, of spirit, even on the part of the filmmaker. I think he's been enormously generous. Isaac Dinesen in a story is generous with everyone in the tale. The religious sector are sort of set up at the beginning of the film as if we could really end up laughing at them. And no such thing happens. I mean, we do laugh at some of their more rigid ways. As one of Sydney's leading critics says, he wouldn't have stayed 10 minutes in that village. He would have got out of town fast. But you end up, their whole lifestyle is supported and validated by this film. Stéphane Audrin's generosity as Babette, you know, with this feast. And I think it's generosity of the filmmaker to have made it so beautiful. I loved it.
So how many marks will you give it?
I'm going to give it 4 out of 5, I think.
Well, the same for me, I think. 4 out of 5 for me too.